What's good, YouTube? And welcome to a freeze frame. I wanted to do something different with this market watch and take a snapshot of all the prices as we enter the off season. And it's a much more interesting off season this year than people might think. But some people assume that the market's going to go crazy from the WCQ. Gotta have the best deck and grab it. When in all reality, there might be a buyout from Tex or two, but people are going to start getting ban list fears, reprint fears. The Megatins are coming, but to Konami's credit, something is different this year. We're getting regionals back as soon as August 12th, before we're getting into the 10s and the mass reprints, the rarity collection, maybe Mavens too. I mean, Power of the Elements is missing from the reprint slots, and I don't think that's just from the unlimited boxes. So when it does come down to it, there's speculatory extra reprint boxes. There's the ones we already know. What's gonna miss the Megatins? People over speculate on that. There's gonna be a lot to go around, but as a famous vendor once said, the moment round one of the WCQ begins, the show is over, pack it up, and we're only buying for cheap at that point because, yeah, you don't know what's going to get reprinted, and it's going to be a while before people start playing, although this year, it's a little bit quicker. I did want to go over quarter century rares actually to start this out though, because they're what's bubbling the most and speculated on. I got it wrong. I thought the top end would be a little more expensive. It's not. And also the bottom end is more expensive than I thought it would be. I thought they'd act like complete junk collector rares where they'd fall out to 18, 15, 20, depending on the one. Right now it's not acting quite that way, while some are headed there though. But the top end is still trying to hang around under 250. Now, other ones are bubbling up like Zeus, yep, which is skyrocketing at the moment comparatively to where it was at. You also have Assault Synchron, which Synchro, yep, is going to be pretty hype. And then Tiramisu, there's only 3 quantities stopping it from being triple digits at this point. And then Dante's going crazy over on Card Market. I saw that, the Farfa card in EU. Who would have thunk? English copies are like 100 euros over there right now, lowest. So that's kind of wild. And over here, it's not really budging all that much. We did see Tri-Edge Master go to 80. There's only one listing stopping that as well, and not really any crazy sales rates. I mean, the 50s are still way up versus where it was at though, and it is a generic synchro that seems pretty cool, and you know, original to the set cards are likely to do better, especially if they see play, and synchros are getting hyped. So this is a set I wanted to actually start with because this is super speculatory on how it's going to turn out, but people are also avoiding mid-max/max rarities and modern cards right now a bit because they want to see how the rarity collection plays out. You might have seen it on Facebook groups, people fire selling stuff, especially if it's affected by the rarity collection set, or likely to be in case we copy the OCG's list. Now for the sellout of the video, Gym Tech has a new deck box coming out here at, I believe it's 8 o'clock Central Time, and I think the outside looks amazing. And while I'm sponsored, I always put the audience first. I gotta say, I haven't heard anything nice about the inside design, and I'll comment on that too, but the outside is literally a 10 out of 10, and I would buy this just for the outside. I'm gonna put my LOB format decks in here for past format play. The side also doesn't really show up as well on the site. It looks amazing. They really did something with this, and it looks great. Now the inside, unfortunately, the Blue Eyes looks kind of like a Xenomorph got it on with it. That's what a lot of people have to complain about with it, and I do get it. The inside felt is nice, baby blue colored. I don't know if I got the proper lighting up here, but I do like it, and you can use the code CHAMPS10 for 10% off to make it hurt a little less for that amazing outside. And that's what most people are going to see most of the time with it. But it's like having a really nice car and knowing you're going to be staring at a dashboard that's not really to your liking, in my opinion. But again, I still personally would be buying this for myself if I didn't already have one. I 100% would. But yeah, again, Gym Tech, that's 8 o'clock Central, dropping tonight. Battles of Chaos is the first set up for the Megatins here, and I thought I had everything ready for y'all. Editing done live and cheap, and there's not a lot towards the top of this already. Illusion of Chaos has been falling out of favor over time. I imagine they would secret rare that again, but if the DM Blue Eyes cards get rarity dumped instead of bumped, you know, not secret rare once again, I do think these will hold pretty well. Like, this might go down towards 12, 15, and then rebound over time as a fan favorite Blue Eyes cards. Same with Illusion of Chaos being a Dark Magician card. I would expect an upgrade for the Flunder Advent here, and the Dinomorphia stuff, it's just gonna bottom out cheap if printed. Guardian Chimera already did get a reprint, so that could be one Konami holds off on, or does decide to go ahead and dump in the tins. We'll have to see how they fill the value. Sometimes TCG exclusives do miss though, and when they do, they get bought out pretty darn quick. So do think about how much you like the Libromancer cards. They're very cheap right now, and if they do miss, they could get bought out a lot, but that's still speculation and educated guessing. Docs didn't do the best overall, right? This is actually on Best Match also. So when it comes to this set, it's already floundering, failing despite multiple cards having bubbled up multiple times like Starfrost and Regulus. People are looking forward to cheaper options of this. I would think the Therions would end up in there. I could see a card like Psychic and Punisher getting held for something else because it had the sleeves to go in the Maven 2 equivalent over in the OCG. So this actually could be a card that misses the 10s, people get overhyped on and then gets put somewhere else, or they could just chunk it in the 10s if they're not doing Mavens 2. That might actually be a pretty good sign on where the future products are heading if this does get printed. Beyond the Pendulum, I don't know how the office feels about Pendulum, so that's kind of interesting because they really, have different viewpoints on Electromite. And then when we're looking through here overall, I do think that most of this is going to get zapped for value, and this is going to be one of the worst long-term boxes since maybe Shadow Specters, despite multiple good cards inside. When it comes down to us having Power of the Elements, I think Kurkar, Divine Carnate, Starlight is actually undervalued despite a consistent upgrade. It doesn't really show the spikes of the buyouts as much here, and I think the first edition is held back a little by the Unlim, but the Unlims are starting to go now, and with how this is like a $50 card, right? And also, it had its sleeves in the Mavens 2 equivalent in the OCG, another card that, if it's not on the 10s, skyrockets, and then we could get Mavens 2. We'll have to wait and see. But it's a card that could miss that way and be in a set where the highest rarity would be Pharaoh Rare, which doesn't really make sense for it unless we get a curveball in that set. Again, Power of the Elements not even mentioned in the 10s currently, so I guess it really could be waiting for a product like that. I expect, Sprite cards and these to eventually get reprints, but again, it feels like they're holding it to sell something else out, right? Darkwing Blast had a ton of lower end value that's probably going to get rarity bumps in the Bestials, and when it comes to the top end, people are certainly going to appreciate the reprints, and this is what's going to sell the Megatens as singles, right? This is what people are going to chase after, besides whatever that and more, where Konami shoves in some desperation, maybe short printed value after last year. So I look forward to this being in here, and hopefully Konami goes and reverts from doing shorts in the 10s. We had promos, 25th century rares within there of iconic cards, which should also help the 10s a little bit. It's not like we're getting a ton of promos where there's playable cards on top of the icons. So the inside of the set has to still sell it to a degree for meta players, and this is definitely the set that's going to help do that. Remember, this is tenable. It's mentioned in the 10s list. Now, also there is Grand Creators. That reprint was so good. Let's do it again. I make fun of it a lot, but I do think Rite of Armistier is the perfect kind of card to do that with. The Punk Engine is already mad cheap, but also preventing it from becoming expensive again. I would like to see those reprinted in the 10s. Tactical Masters being in the 10s is a weird one for me. I mean, you got the Labyrinth cards. They already reprinted Welcome Labyrinth. It's bottomed out. I guess you could give it a Prismatic Secret Rare. Same with like some of the fan favorites. Runic reprints as well, mayhaps, as an engine. And then we could see stuff hit a little more on the list after Konami feels like they sold it again. It's not like the set was doing well for itself, though, as many side sets struggle. Now let's talk about sets not in the 10s. Photon Hypernova has triple tactic thrust, and I think this is the card most people are comfortable with. This is the card, if I was in the room at the WCQ, I likely wouldn't sell, knowing that the season is only going to be off for a month. I think this will be highly in demand through the winter season, and I think it's unlikely to get a reprint in order to sell a set like that. I think they have enough ammo for something like Mavens 2 when we're talking about Kurikara and other cards they're going to think to headline it, and then classics for Pharaoh Rares, if that does exist, by the way. When it comes to all the cashed hero cards, they're already dipping out to where I think Konami will be comfortable hitting this deck harder instead of trying to cash in later, especially with a star staple atop this set. And even with the staple, the boxes ain't doing too hot. It really should have been a Starlight rare. I think that actually would have pulled this set up by its bootstraps, as well as, you know, the max rarity part of it. A lot of Starlights, again, falling out as people get really nervous about the rarity collection in the future of prices of mid-max collectibles, right? I do think Big Welcome Labyrinth, as you get even more Labyrinth reprints, will probably stonk a little harder, so it's something I would get sooner than later. Maybe using that TCG player link in the description down below, costing you nothing extra to support the channel directly for the cards you'd already be buying. And with Punk reprints already here, and maybe even again, Gold Pride might also be something good to have as it cheapens out through the off season just a little bit, hopium for y'all. Now, there will be ban list theories, ban lists that do happen, and they'll be happening during the winter season, fall season, and I do think Branded is more likely to get helped than hurt by those, but we'll have to wait and see. That's still speculation. Chaos Angel atop this set, I expect this to decline a bit during the off season, and then maybe shoot back up depending on what's on top. I think it definitely got a little bit of extra help from Dragon Link being one of the more represented decks during the WCQ than any other time during the season, but you do have real backing for Dragon Link even in the set, like the 100 apples, right? So Dragon Link has been getting boost. Maybe it's here to stay a bit longer, unlikely to get hit in most capacities, right? And I do like this card a lot, but I think during the off season we'll see a little cool off as a one of, unlike, you know, a 2, 3 of, and then it'll probably start to heat back up depending on the decks that are performing once we are back, baby. We have amazing defenders here. Mekanko only gets better, so do keep that in mind. And Purely is still doing things despite its hits, so it could feel like it's a little undervalued. But again, off-season likely to help people buy the cards. Rescue Ace, however, has been getting hyped, and I think that'll probably continue a bit even through the off-season. Maze of Memories, the world premiere set, has that Excel Synchro Stardust. I think this is going to be a pretty good card moving forward through the Synchro decks, and I do think they're a little more real than some people give it credit for. Whenever you hear Synchro Climb deck, yep, only a few people are going to play it, yep, oh no, it's not. I think it's a little bigger than a lot of people think it's going to be. So this is, again, a card I really like. Seeing 100 quantities on market, a little eyebrow raising, and actually nice for those looking for it. And finally, Wild Survivors. The Versus series is a bit niche. You gotta want to play it. It's a lot of high rarity cards, but understandably so, there are people out there grinding, and it can probably only get helped by ban lists. So this set, I expect the sealed to continue to go down. It does have nice shiny dinos in it. It does have a meme archetype inside, and then a, you know, middle of the road kind of archetype that is good and likely to get better, but then Power Creep's gonna still be hitting there later too, right? So do consider that with Versus, but hey, these side sets also tend to get a little bit of help in future products. Thanks for watching today's Market Watch. Oh, did you enjoy kind of that take where we're actually looking at the more speculatory side and also giving those warnings? This is educated guessing. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know the future of what Konami will do, which is why I give such airs of caution. But when it comes down to this, I like talking about these sides of things because we don't know what Konami's going to reprint, and you do have to consider the misses, but not overhype and give FOMO to those as well. You got to make your moves, can't be frozen in fear. And when it comes down to stuff like this, there's a lot of product that's about to go a little bit weirder than usual thanks to the schedule.